Hey, Sean.
I've got a little bit of time. What you got on your mind?
So, you know, experience is kind of or time and experience is kind of prerequisite to wisdom, right? Um, you can't really cheat it, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of 10 years ago, almost to the day, driving down to Austin and signing up for this weird, GCExperts workshop and paying a very reasonable amount of money to get a fast track on wisdom and doing government procurement. That was the epiphany that I had this morning. And so kudos to making a wise decision to team up with some very wise men and fast forward 10 years. So it's been a slow year for Stilton, the slowest since the first year in business. And we're not doing anything significantly different. I don't know what's happened. I am seeing a lot of, interesting stuff. And so I've just kind of spent most of my time, submitting bids and also looking at, just researching what's going on. So I stumbled across this company this morning, and I noticed it's a company out of Knoxville, and maybe you've heard of this, guys. Is it Allied Federal Contracting? Allied, something like that. But I was on FPDS and I noticed, dude, this company is getting a contract from all types of government agencies, like 2 to 3 contracts a week, consistently across like every agency out there. Mostly the VA, but every agency out there. So I started digging and researching and ran it through ChatGPT. And so it told me what I already kind of knew, is that these guys are on the GSA schedule, on the mass, but they also have BPAs and IDIQs. So like all three, they're just pumping them out. And I got to thinking to myself as I'm kind of researching this, and of course we're all understanding how the GSA schedule works and BPAs and IDIQs. But something didn't dawn on me that should have dawned on me many, 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 many years ago. First of all, how much do you know about the GSA schedule, Tom?
I mean, I know more than the average bear. You got to keep in mind, though, that I say in the workshop that we never did IDIQs or MATOCs or any of these other types of contracts because the difference between them is that you're marrying the government as opposed to dating the government, is the analogy that I use or the metaphor I use.
And I use that. I borrow that from you all the time. when someone asks me, man, why don't you do like maintenance contracts? I borrow that analogy from you all the time because I love it.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with them. I know people. Hell, there's people that make money in jock contracts with state. The state of Texas is an example.
So here's what I found interesting, because that's the way I always understood the GSA. I had people call me all the time. Hey, let's get Stilton on the GSA schedule. I always looked at the GSA schedule as, I don't sell paper or toothbrushes.
No, you can be a construction contractor on the GSA schedule. You're just negotiating all the pricing ahead of time. That's all the GSA schedule is. Doesn't matter what the widget is.
See, and I never quite understood that in entirety. That just because you don't sell peanuts at 10 cents a piece doesn't mean you can't be on a GSA schedule. I never really crossed into that other categories or whatever, like like what you just said, predetermined or pre-agreed pricing. But what I ultimately didn't understand about the GSA schedule, to the extent of how it appears to work, is how much business the government buys that never goes out to bid.
Do you want to know why?
Tell me.
Because it's already pre-negotiated. You don't have to be a procurement official to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the huge difference. A maintenance guy, if he's got an allocation or he's got a budget, he's allowed to go directly to, or the building facilities manager or whatever. They can go directly to the GSA schedule and they can just spend the money.
So it doesn't even go through contracting. Essentially, it's just like a pre-agreed credit card or pre-agreed budget.
If he's got the budget, he's allowed to spend it on the GSA schedule. Now,
Interesting.
here's the other part of this thing that none of these people that will call you and say, hey, let us sell you, getting you on the GSA schedule will ever tell you. It's okay, Stilton's on there. Kudos to you. How the fuck does Bob Green in, bumfuck Tennessee gonna know to pick you off the GSA schedule? That's where marketing comes in. Now,
right.
Okay, and
it's what they call, hey, getting on the GSA schedule is not the end; it's the beginning.
No question about it. And there's some caveats to it. Mm-hmm. One is you have minimum requirements, and if you don't meet those minimums, you go on probation, and it's self-reported. So you have to report back to them what you sold in the last 3 months, why you didn't sell what you had anticipated you were going to sell, and then they'll give you, and then you can get booted off the GSA schedule.
Okay. Here's where A plus B kind of added up in my brain. Is, for example, I kind of took a detour about 3 or 4 years ago and started basically doing business with nobody but DHS, specifically the United States Coast Guard.
Yes, therefore, thereby pigeonholing yourself and losing a lot of the opportunities. I was going to bring that up earlier in the conversation, but I kind of felt like it went without saying.
Yep. And I knew that time would come. I knew that time would come, probably, or it could. And that was a risk I was willing to take because of the extent of profitability I could achieve by self-performing. My average profit margin for the last 4 years is probably in the area of like 55 to 60%. And so, to me, it was worth it. Even now, I don't regret it. Like, this is the smallest year I've ever had. I'm at like 200K in sales and contracts, which is like 20% of what it normally would be. But the reason I'm okay with that is because I've used the last 4 years to position myself to be, relatively comfortable. And so now I just need to crawl back out of the kind of trap I set for myself. I just need to figure out a way out of it. But here's what I was thinking on GSA schedule. Even in lieu of like what what Stilton's been doing is oftentimes the biggest issue that I see with the current customer that I, have been serving is time, speed. Like they're, DOD, they're trying to get shit selling this and this and that. And the biggest headache they have is crap. We got to put this thing out to bid. So that's going to take at least 10 more days. We're going to have to do this and this and this and that. So if Stilton were on a GSA schedule, help me, stop me if I'm saying anything that's incorrect. If I called SFLC Oakland and says, hey guys, Stilton's on the GSA schedule with everything and the prices and the services that we offer, I honestly think that they would be extremely happy about that.
Well, it's not them that I would call. It's who I would be calling if I were going to go down this road. Mm-hmm. And believe me, I would not. Me personally, I would not go down this road. But that's just me, okay? I don't mean that. I know other people. There is money in their hills, so they say. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'd be calling the facilities managers, the people that you've already done work for, that know, like, and trust you. And telling them, hey, I'm on the GSA schedule. When you guys come, don't even allocate this money over to contracting. Just order directly from us and we'll take care of you.
What's so unique about the places I've been over the last 5 years is, I'll give you an example. There's one base in San Francisco. It's actually in Alameda, California. If you've ever been to Alameda, it's an island.
I have.
And so that one base, from the boats to the lieutenant commanders to the captains to the port engineers to the people in contracting to the commander, who's now the commander of the entire base. He used to be a lieutenant commander on one of the vessels. Now Brad is the commander of the entire base. And the point of the picture I'm trying to create here It's everybody knows everybody, from the MPA, the engineer on the boat, to the whole commander of the base and everyone in between. Everyone knows everybody, and all those people know Stilton, good or bad. They know us. And so going to the point that you were talking about, making sure that like the facilities manager knows you. In this particular instance, what I'm describing is everyone on that base, for the most, not everyone, but you know what I mean. All the people who would need to know something, they all know who Stilton is and kind of what we can do. And so if they just knew that, hey, we could order a load bank testing or some bearing parts or a fan coil unit to be installed, if they knew that they could get that from Stilton, I think, if I'm understanding the schedule correctly, I think that they would be excited about that because they don't have to put something out to bid in order to get services done. If I'm understanding the schedule correctly and how it could be used.
You are understanding it correctly and how it can be used.
Because I even had the commander before he became commander. He was on the boat. We were coming out doing load banks, and it was annoying because they had to put it out to bid, and literally it wouldn't get awarded until like the morning of or the night before the work had to be done, and it was so frustrating to everybody. And I remember being on the boat, and commander says, "Man, I don't know why they don't just sole source these to Stilton, because every time y'all come out there, it gets done, y'all do a good job, but they wait till the last minute." And he said, "I don't know why they don't sole source this to Stilton." When he said that, the only thing that it wasn't that I was interested in pursuing a sort of sole source. I didn't know how you would do that. Like, I don't know if there's a process for that or if that's just handshaking and lunches.
It's not handshaking and winks and nods. It really isn't. What that process is for sole sourcing is you get involved in the specifications, okay, and then you have them create so you either talk directly to the contracts office before they even send it over to the engineer. Then you get a hold of the engineer, and he's looking to make his life easier. So you say, hey, this is what we do and this is what's unique about us, and you need to create a sole source justification. So you would need to look into what would make Stilton justified to be the sole source. Now,
right.
My experience suggests that there's nothing unique about you other than you're my friend, and that's a high bar for me, Sean Reitmeyer, but not necessarily for the United States federal government.
Right. And that's how I felt at the time. So even when that comment was made, I didn't feel cool about it or special about it. I just kind of felt like, well, that's not really going to happen. You know what I mean? That's the thought that went through my head is, that's not going to happen. Because I'm not unique. There's many companies who can do this. It would just be convenient for the government if they did it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which brings me all the way back now to talk about the GSA schedule. Is if he said, hey, Stilton's on the GSA schedule, why are y'all putting this out to bid? Y'all could have awarded them. They could have did it the next day. You know what I mean? That's a different conversation. Or that's a different situation.
Sure it is.
I didn't know that was possible. I always thought the GSA was literally like nuts and bolts, hourly rates, or I didn't realize that you could do services like construction and things like that under a GSA schedule, because I thought it had to be priced like almost like a firm fixed price. I still don't understand how that aspect works. Like, how do you get pricing into
so
a GSA schedule?
they have allocation. Remember when in the workshop where I talk about buckets of money?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's buckets. It's all buckets. Okay, and they distribute the money into each bucket, and then they start spending the money in the bucket. And when this bucket's empty, they go into the next bucket that's under a different type of allocation. I mean, look, I've never been in the backside in the finances of the federal government. I can only tell you from experience where they can literally sometimes go into different buckets, pull money out of that bucket and put it in this bucket. Okay? One time we turned around, no, we filed a claim. Okay? Have you filed a claim yet?
No, don't say that. No.
Okay, well, let me just explain the claims process to you. It's important, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is fun and games up until the point that you file a claim. In other words, all the conversations, all the emails, all the text message, all the communication is just fun and games until you file a claim. So let's say you get a response from the government that you don't like. And you argue your position and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
The next legal step that you can do is what's called filing a claim. Now, the only difference between a letter to the government saying, hey, you owe me some money, and a claim is language in the letter itself. And the language simply states, and therefore we request the contracting officer's final decision in accordance with the Disputes Act of 1978. Once you put that language into a letter, it has officially become a claim.
A claim, right.
Okay. Now, the contracting officer has 60 days to respond to your claim. They can agree with you and give you what you want. They can say no, or they can negotiate with you. If they say no, you can now appeal the decision, the contracting officer's final decision, to the Contract Board of Appeals. Okay, that's, quote, suing the federal government. That contracting officer's final decision is where you're forcing the federal government to establish their legal position on the issue. That's right. It's all fun and games, he said, she said, up to that point. And there's some financial stuff that happens associated with filing claim. Like once you file a claim, you can't increase your costs associated with the claim. Okay? So if you end up having attorney's fees during a claim, you can't get the attorney's fees, but you can get your attorney's fees prior to the claim for trying to establish your position. If you ultimately win, you can go back and get your attorney's fees associated with, we tried to tell you guys. Okay? So anyway, there's some stuff associated with that, and I kind of went off on a tangent here, and I can't remember why.
You're good. I like hearing it. I like being reminded that I haven't, knock on wood, had to sue the federal government in 150 plus contracts. Your letters always stop short of that.
Well, yeah, because there's it's no fun.
Have you personally done it?
Not without my dad.
Okay, so just you with
I've gone through the process with my dad twice.
Sean, what I wanted to sidebar where you said you personally, you're only speaking about you, but only you personally would never be on a GSA schedule. Give me the top 3 reasons why you personally wouldn't do it.
Number 1 is pain in the ass. Number 2, there's reporting requirements. Keep in mind, I've been through this process with a company that I have often said over the last 15 years of teaching federal government construction that I have only come across one situation where it made sense for somebody I was interacting with to be on the GSA schedule. And they sold a product that was unique. And I got involved, not because I wanted to be involved, but I got drug in, dad drags everybody into everything. And I got drug into this thing, and they had, let's see, what's the correct terminology for this? They had been on the GSA schedule, they had been warned that they had not hit their minimums, and I was responsible for responding to the contract, whoever the procurement official was associated with the GSA schedule, to establish a plan for getting us back on track to make sales and the reporting requirements. Otherwise, this project was going to be kicked off the GSA schedule. So this was about 10 years ago, and I went through that process, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, you're going to have to contact every procurement official that's ever associated with buying this kind of widget, and you're going to have to market this thing. I was like, I'd much rather just go in, bid a federal contract, sub it out, Get it done. There's easier ways in life to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's number 2. Easier ways to make money. Number 3 is one of the most simple credos that I live by, which is I don't kiss anybody's ass for anything. And when you're trying to actively sell your shit or your idea or I'm not a relationship guy.
Yeah.
I never have been a relationship guy. You have the gift of gab. And I have said that if there's anybody in this program who's more talented than I am, it's Marcus Eady. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I have said that to multiple people over the years.
Well, that's very flattering. I'm afraid I can't accept that.
Well, but let me tell you, why I say that. Because you have the mental acumen for this in the same way that I do, but you're more of a people person than I am.
It's funny because I don't have a lot of friends, and you know what I mean. Of course, I also didn't go to college. I dropped out of high school. You know, I was always kind of been an entrepreneur, so I didn't have buddies at work, at the office, you know, or watch football with, or I didn't play any sport. I'm kind of a loner, so like my little group of friends are just people who have basically kind of been loyal to me through the years and kind of followed me through all my nonsense. And it's funny because even now I'm not really a people person. The one thing I will say though, for example, if I have to go out to Oakland and I have to bid a contract, negotiate with the contracting officer sometimes, try to speak technical for this crazy thing we do, go out to the ship, I have to interface with the guys, because it's just me and maybe some subs. I have to interface with the guys who are crawling through the sewer pipes covered in poop with missing teeth, and I have to be able to talk to them on their level. And then I have to go report back to a meeting with the commander, the captain of the boat, and the lieutenant commanders and the engineering officer, and have a sensible conversation with them, but no, not to smell like poop, because I was just talking to the guys who are crawling through the sewers. Well, to me, it's not so much a gift of gab as much as like diplomacy, knowing who to be with the right person, if that makes any sense. And it feels almost fake, but, communication, it's like if I'm speaking in Spanish, but my main, language is English, I don't feel like I'm being fake. Even if my Spanish sucks, I'm just trying to communicate, you know what I mean, to the person who I have to be what I need to be to communicate, across. So the best way I was trying to explain to somebody what I do. I said, man, I'm really just a diplomat, essentially. I go in, there's a problem. I come from A and try to get to D and talk to B, C, and, E along the way. You know what I mean? So I just have to be different people to get the thing done. But I'm like you, Sean. I don't like people that much. I like you. But we be who we have to be to get it done. Do any of your members that you know of, or students, are any of them that you know of ever done the MAS or GSA?
Nope.
I think I'm going to try it, Sean.
I wouldn't blame you for trying it. I'd like to hear the results. Look,
if you're telling me you don't have any students who you know of that have ever been on the GSA schedule, then let's experiment with Stilton. Let's experiment with Stilton. Because the one thing about pigeonholing myself, as you described me, spot on. The one thing about that, though, is I have a dedicated, unique, full-time customer that I've ignored all other customers, but I've given them everything. And so it's kind of like the opposite effect. Instead of having all these customers who could buy from me, I had, collectively, I have the same amount of volume of sales from one customer who I think would buy from me if they knew that they could buy from me on the GSA.
Well, you just reminded me of one of the smartest sentences I ever heard, which was about 20 years ago. I was listening to, it wasn't even a podcast. It was before podcast was a term, but I was listening to this guy's weekly talk along, and he said, if you really want to be successful in life, you need 50 sources of income. Now, you can interpret that in a lot of different ways, but but that that one sentence really changed my perspective about what
Interesting.
success means in life, because if you got all your eggs in one basket, it's the same fucking concept, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna have to process that a little bit because I
It
can't
took
really.
it was 20 years ago. I'm still processing it today.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a sentence.
Yeah. I mean, the number 50 is above my mental capacity, but the concept though, the concept, because I can stand here, 20 years into entrepreneurship, maybe 25 even, as just a bootstrapper who, tries to get stuff done. But I can tell you that even now, without multiple streams of income, whether it's from businesses or just hustles or just my rental house in Houston, whatever the case may be, right? Without multiple streams, I can tell you that whatever big leg I'm standing on, I wouldn't be here without those little or sometimes insignificant other sources of revenue.
Yeah.
Nothing would exist. Like even the behemoth, I don't know if I told you, Tony, I didn't mind the Coast Guard. I was able to buy our new home in Lake Jackson and one for my mother-in-law down the street last year based off of my Coast Guard work. And I couldn't get a mortgage because interest rates are crazy. And so it allowed me to pay cash for both of our new residences and keep my house in Houston as a rental property, essentially. And so that's why I was telling you earlier that I didn't mind pigeonholing myself because I accomplished the main financial goal that I wanted, which was getting into a new home for my girls and my family, bigger and not, it's not a nice home, but, it's got space. But saying all that to say none of that would have been possible without my little seasonal little catering business that I make, $30,000, $40,000 a season, because it carried me from the time that I spent every penny I had to the summer where I could get back another contract or two. Does that make sense? But my catering business kicked off a couple $1,000s a week so I can buy meals. Without it, I would have nothing. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I 100% agree with that. I don't know why what I said reminded you of that, but I forgot what I said. But let's do it, Sean. Let's introduce another, and we'll do it at my expense. We'll learn at my expense. Let's use Stilton as a guinea pig to see what it might look like if you made it easier for the government to buy from you. Do your other members, do they primarily just do the, get a contract, sub it out? I mean, they're still kind of following that roadmap, that model?
Yeah, and we did a trigger in our bid tracker system that when one of the guys gets a job, I get an email, and the email, it's just data, right? So it says, X got this contract award for this amount of money on bid tracker number, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy to kind of track things, because one of the biggest problems you have as a consultant in this business is you create all these guys, they go out and get federal contracts, but you never hear about them unless there's a problem.
Right.
And so I was having a conversation with Kevin Willen, I don't know, a week or two ago, and he had a buddy that was stopping by, and that buddy sold a widget. His widget was, you probably seen these on the internet, these robot lawnmowers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really big into that, and sells a couple $1,000,000 a year or something of robot lawnmowers, was interested in federal contracts for it. And I said, I had the conversation with him because that's a product for the GSA schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sell robot lawnmowers to the federal government. But anyway, but as I was talking to the buddy, I was on speakerphone. I knew Kevin could hear, and I was like, one of the biggest problems is nobody ever tells me they fucking win. So, and then Kevin in the background, he goes, "Well, I just won a $120,000 contract last week," and I said, "No, you didn't. It was 118,200." I said, "I was hoping you."
You're tracking me now. That's funny. That's funny. So the one thing I will say, Sean, and I'm not that old. I'm 46, but I'm feeling it. I hurt my back a couple years ago, and I'm just tired and raising two small girls, or really three girls, but two little ones in my household right here. I was thinking to myself, man, it's fun, it's lucrative, but sometimes I wonder at what point am I going to be tired of bidding jobs, subbing them out, making 30 grand, bidding jobs, subbing them out, making 20 grand, 80 grand. Like it's kind of monotonous. Like, and I feel like with the size of the United States government as a customer or as a spender, there's got to be a way to increase the volume of sales you do to the government without necessarily just increasing the size of the contract that you take on. 2 or 3 years into Stilton with Ben, and we had some employees and things were going good, and we were kind of growing a little bit, but just a little bit, because we can only do so many contracts a year, so many bids. It's just a lot of paperwork, a lot of daily huff and fuss. And so we had our roundtable and says, what are we going to do to grow this company? And the only real answer is to go after larger jobs. That's the only real answer. Is we got to get bigger contracts. If we want to increase, growth being increased sales, increased revenue, we got to go after bigger jobs. And unlike your dad, man, I have zero desire. Maybe I'm too comfortable in my new home down here in this little town where I don't want to leave. But I have no desire to have a $5 million construction contract going on at Lackland Air Force Base for 12 months and having to deal with subs and foremans and engineers and architects and permit. Being on site for 3 months, it just doesn't. I wouldn't do it for the money. Like if you said, "Oh man, you can make $500,000 in 12 months if you just go down there and spend 6 months," I'm like, "No, I'm good. I don't want."
I just had this conversation with Elda in the pool 2 days ago, talking about my parents, and she goes, "Hey, dumbass, your dad wasn't there. Look at all those. Look at all those memories you're talking about when you were a kid. Now, where was your dad? In this one, in this one, in this one, in this one." I'm like, holy shit.
That didn't really you didn't. That doesn't just dawn on you when you think about your childhood.
No, because I think my childhood is fucking magical,
Yeah.
but it was magical because dad was on the road getting all that shit done all around the world, and
Right.
and I made the decision, it was that job in 1998. I was in Natick, Massachusetts, and I was building that wind tunnel for the Navy up there, and my son was born back in Austin, Texas.
Oh wow.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What
am
Oh
I
no,
doing?
I'm sorry, not born. It was I was there when he was born. My apologies.
Okay.
It was the ultrasound. She overnighted the tape up to me. I rented a VCR at Blockbuster and went back to the hotel, plugged in the VCR and put the tape in and saw the ultrasound. And and it was in that moment that I was thinking, what the fuck? Like,
what am I doing?
What am I doing? And that was when I started really pushing to be a project manager, so I could be home. But even at the project manager level, you still have to visit job sites and stuff. But it only, if there's a problem on a construction, that's part of the reason we live in Texas, is so that we could go equal distance to
equal distance.
We could get pretty much anywhere in the country we needed to be within a few hours.
Right.
Plus, it's good for phone calls. An hour difference one way and two the other.
Right.
Keeps a relatively reasonable workday. But strategies on life, brother.
Yeah, no. And the thing I could say, and I could do it whether I do what I do with the Coast Guard or whether I do it with, all the other agencies subbing everything out. I will say though that the trade-off with the direction that I pivoted, the trade-off was my girls. So last year I left maybe 5 times. I went to California, San Diego. Most of my work is in California. I might have went to Seattle. I might have went to Charleston. I don't remember. But I think I left about 5 times, and on average about 7 days.
On the smaller jobs, it's just a bunch of phone calls. But on the bigger jobs, it's a lot more involved. And
But
so you're right to be thinking that way. But on the other hand, my dad says this, and really, I'm starting to get on board with the idea that I traded my youth for money.
yeah, and see, and that's my thing. Like I said, so if I left 5 times last year, an average of 5 to 7 days each, that means I spent 30 days or 4 weeks on the road, and the other 11 months, I woke up with my daughters, took them to school, picked them up from school. They spent every single waking hour with me, 11 months out of the year. To where literally when I leave now for a job, I get a call and I got to go like Monday. My girls are losing their shit because I'm leaving town for 5 days. Not because they love me that much it's just they're not used to me being gone. Like it's the opposite. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like, Dad, when you're leaving us, I'm like, girl, I'm gonna be gone for 5 days. The only reason you're upset about it is because I never leave. That's the only reason you're mad. It's because I'm never gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I kind of told myself, like, man, I don't know I don't know what a dollar amount would look like to trade for that. I don't know. There might be a number, but I can't think of one. If that makes any sense.
Well,
Like,
when I look back on you and even your brother and how we met and you come, did I make your life better or worse?
man, bro, you, I'll say this. I'll say it this way. You, you put in front of us the mindset, or I won't speak for Ben. I'll speak for me. You put in front of me the mindset and the opportunity to basically kind of go out and build, whatever life we wanted to, at least as it pertained to utilizing government contracting to do that. Does that make sense?
You're
You know,
much more of a
yeah,
highbrow thinker now than you were then.
right. And I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't have gone without meeting you. I wouldn't have gone on to, open a, successful restaurant or catering company or became a stockbroker or a trader or fucking went to work for Home Depot. I don't know what would have happened, but I can tell you that I didn't have the financial freedom, the time to be with my family, and the ability to kind of create opportunities from nothing until I met, you and your dad. So yeah, I'd say that's a very positive thing. And my wife probably appreciates it more than I do. My wife and kids probably appreciate it more than I even realized because yeah, everything we've done was based on that. I just want to take it to another level, not to get rich, but to just to I don't care about fancy cars and this and that and all that stuff. Never been a shoulder uh, brusher or any of that stuff. I could care less about that stuff. That's why I moved away from Dallas. Um, but I do want to explore ways that we could have more consistent and not even easier because I don't mind working 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. If it was filling orders or managing people or whatever the case may be. I just want something a little more consistent. Because I do have a lot of free time, and I just feel like there's other ways in the government rather than just getting larger contracts. I just feel like there's other ways to make money with the government. Even if I got to get married to them a little bit, a 5-year marriage with a prenup. And I've just never, we've never talked about it. Yeah, I know that you don't like to marry the government; you like to date them. So we've just never had a conversation. I don't know what a scale would look like. I mean, how many of your members or your students have like scaled their construction or their contracting businesses?
So, scale is an interesting word. Let
It
let
is.
let me rephrase what I think you really mean. I think the best question is, of all the people you've ever taught this to, how many have really replicated what you and Doug were?
Mm-hmm.
Because that does include the word scale.
Yeah.
And to me, it's somewhere around 10 or 12 of the people, and you and your brother are certainly two of them. You are a very good representation of who I was, and to some extent who Doug was. Doug, Doug's entirely unique, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably never going to meet somebody exactly like him ever again. I know I won't. Um, but
What stands out to me about Doug that I don't have is his like I won't say crazy, but his unique obsession with like getting not beat up, but like putting himself into like weird scenarios and like digging himself out of it. He's like he has this like not sadistic, but this I don't know like not fetish. I can't find the right word, but he loves to like figure shit out, like the most complicated things. Like that's what I want to pick up. Like don't give me the easy job, give me the most complicated job, and that's the one I want to do. Like I don't understand that. Like,
it's pretty unique, isn't it?
yeah.
And I mean, look, I got no problem with you using the word sadistic. It sure seems that way to me. And I'm his kid,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you are exactly right. He wants to be in the most messed up scenario imaginable, with no solution in sight, and then just think about it for days and days and days and days until he gets it right, wrong, or learns something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredibly
Yeah.
unique. But anyway, my point being that you're a good representation, and and that's why I refer to you as the most successful client, because I look back at you're the only person that I would ever consider that is probably better at this than I am, um, only because you get the benefit of everything I've ever learned, and you're a quick learner, and not only are you a quick learner, but you're quick to apply what you learn, and I am that way too, and when I get got, oh, okay, you're never gonna get me that way again.
I learned from that one. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I have, man. I've really been enjoying it. And I can be not, not at a disparity. Things are. This was a like I said, it's a unique year. It's kind of a awakening. Didn't the timing maybe caught me by surprise, but not the ultimate inevitability that hey, every good thing will come to an end. You know what I mean? Or at least the direction of the wind will change. You know what I mean? And so here we are. But I also feel like necessity breeds creativity as well. For example, if I wasn't out here submitting 10 bids a day, scrambling, trying to, pick up some revenue before the fiscal year ends, I wouldn't have stumbled across, an idea or a concept or whatever, right? That, I'm over here turning over stones. And it doesn't mean that it's going to take me anywhere, but just the idea is, when you get uncomfortable, you start getting creative. And that's what I'm really trying to do is use my discomfort to as fuel to get to hopefully something that's more not even more sustainable, but just grow. Like use it to grow. Like if my shoes are too small, and damn it, let me figure out a way to get no bigger pair of shoes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's kind of how I feel right now. It's like there's got to be something bigger, and I wouldn't say better, just bigger, like the next step. I mean, I've been doing it the exact same way for basically 10 years, and I'm not proud of that anymore. Not because we didn't do anything, but I just don't feel like I've grown. I haven't learned much new in the last 10 years, except maybe how to do what I do a little bit better. But in business, I just feel like there's got to be a next level. And I don't know. I just don't know what that is. Don't know what that is. But I say just for the sake of it, we're going to experiment. I'll be your first student to get on a GSA schedule if I can, and I'll have to just keep you posted on what it looks like and report back. As we're going through this experiment, if you come across anything that you might think is a jewel or a gem or something that I might, be able to learn from, keep me in mind.
Oh, definitely will. 100%.
Keep me in mind. Good deal. Well, Sean, I appreciate it, man. Always a pleasure. I told you it wouldn't be 5 minutes. Always a pleasure. I appreciate it. If anything comes up, we'll be in touch.
Okay, Marcus.
Take care, brother. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.